The objectives of this course are: explore the 3 predefined tasks, replication, synchronization, and data transfer. And understand mass ingestion in initial and incremental mode. Welcome to the Cloud Data Integration, Data Movement Tasks module. A replication task is the simplest of the 3 out-of-the-box tasks for data movement. It can replicate one or multiple objects, and you can apply filters to copy only a subset of the data. You can also exclude columns to be replicated. The replication tasks can do full loads for flat file targets, and full or incremental loads for database targets. The database target must have a primary key to allow for updates. When the target table does not exist, it will be created by the replication task. This is called schema replication. This is especially useful for backup scenarios, where you copy tables to an empty database schema. The replication tasks do not have transformation capabilities. The data is copied as is to the target. And finally, when you configure multiple objects to be replicated, these objects are processed in sequence. The replication process creates subtasks for each object during execution. You can continue or stop the task when a failure occurs in one of the subtasks. When configuring the replication task, you can prefix the target. This is useful for keeping multiple versions of the same table or file. You can also retain rows deleted in a source when doing incremental loads. Typical use cases for replication tasks are: backup of data at a specific moment in time. Archive data. A typical use case would be to archive ordered data older than a month or when they are completed. This helps to free space in the operational data store. Offline reporting. Take a copy of the operational data to run complex reporting queries without impacting the operational systems. The data transfer tasks copy data from a source system to a target. It processes one source table or file where you can select all data, or use a filter to select a subset. You can add a second source as a lookup. The returned data from the lookup will be added to the data flow and written to the target. You can write to an existing or new target table or file. In the field mapping, you can configure which source fields are written to which target fields. The data transfer tasks support insert, update, upsert, and delete operations. The task that offers the most transformation capabilities is the synchronization task. This task processes one source object, or you can join multiple objects using join conditions. The target object must exist. Unlike the 2 previous task types, the synchronization task cannot create target tables at runtime. You can process all source data, limit the number of rows, or add a filter to select the data you want to process. The field mapping maps the source fields to the target. In the field mapping, you can add column-level transformations, like string functions to uppercase a field, or numeric functions to do calculations. The complete set of functions is available, except multi-row functions like calculating totals. You can also add lookups to fields, for example, to look up a code description, or the ISO country code for a country name. The lookup returns one output field, which is written to the target object. Maplets are reusable pieces of business logic, consisting of one or more transformations. Maplets can be added to the synchronization task to include more complex business logic. The Field Mapping tab connects the source to the target fields. You can choose to map the fields manually or use AutoMap. Within AutoMap, you can map on exact fields or use Smart Mapping, which looks for similar names. Per field you can add an expression for any necessary transformation, like uppercase name or do calculations. Click on the expression icon to add one. You can also add a lookup to find a description for a code, or to enrich your data from another source. Using the Edit Types button, you can change data types. If more complex transformation is needed, or the functionality exists in a maplet, you can also add a maplet to the field mapping. Time for some exercises. In the following 3 labs, you will explore the 3 task types by building and executing them. Click on the buttons to start the exercise. After you have completed the labs, please move forward to the next section.
In this exercise, you will build a replication task for multiple tables. Here, you see the list of tables in the SQL Server client. The replication tasks will replicate the 4 tables in the CRM schema, highlighted here. First, you need to log into IDMC. Click on the username to log in. The Services pane appears, listing the available services for your user. Click the Data Integration service. The Data Integration homepage shows the asset overview, the status of the runtime environments, and the recent assets. Click New to start creating the replication task. In the New Assets panel, highlight the replication task. Click Create to start the configuration. Click on the Name field to rename the task. Click the Browse button next to the Location field to select the project where you want to store the task. Click the CDI project as the location to store the replication task. Click Select. The next step is to select the source connection. Click on the down arrow in the Source Connection field to see the list of available connections. Select the connection C2C_MSSQL_CRM. On this screen, you can select all objects or choose which ones to include or exclude. For this exercise, all objects is fine. Click on the Next button at the bottom to configure the target. Select the target connection by clicking on the down arrow next to the field. Select the connection C2C_MSSQL. Click on the target prefix field to change the prefix from SF_ to BKUP_. Click Next to go to the next step in the wizard. On this screen, you can exclude fields from replication. In this exercise, you will copy all fields, so you can click Next. No need to set any filter. Click Next. On the final screen of the wizard, you can assign a schedule and set email notifications. Click Finish to save the replication task. The task is saved, and you return to the overview screen. Now, let's run the task. Click Run to start it. Click on My Jobs in the pop-up to view the progress. You see the job and starting status. You also see there are 4 subtasks created, 1 for each table. Click on the subtasks to see them individually. The first subtask is running, while the others are in the queue. This is because the tasks are executed sequentially. Click the Refresh button on the top right of the screen.
After a little while, all subtasks are done. Time to check the output. Click on the SQL Server Client icon in the Windows toolbar.
In the SQL Server Client, the 4 target tables can be seen here. This concludes the exercise. Click Next to return to the presentation. In this exercise, you will create a data transfer task, combining 2 tables from the PIM system into 1 target table. Click on New to start the exercise. Select Data Transfer Task. Click Create to create the task. Name the task DT_product and select the runtime environment. Unlike the previous 2 task types, the data transfer task can also run on serverless environments. For this exercise, because the source and target are both in the local database, select the local_CSA_ group. Click Next to configure the source. Click on the down arrow next to the connection field to select the connection. The tables for the Product Information Management System reside in the PIM schema. Select the C2C_MSSQL_PIM connection, pointing to this schema. Click Select to select the source object. Select the table product_generic. Click OK to continue to the next step. The source table is selected, and the data preview is expanded to inspect the contents. Click Next to continue with the next step in the wizard. Check the Yes button to add a second source. The second source is used to add additional data to the target by using a lookup. The second source can reside in another location, but in this exercise, it exists in the same schema as the product_generic table. Click on the down arrow next to the connection field to select the PIM connection. Select the PIM connection. Click Select to add the second table. Select the table product_prices. Click OK. The next step is configuring the lookup condition, which row of the second source corresponds with the first. Click on the plus icon on the right to add the condition. First, select the lookup field by clicking on the down arrow. Select the product_ID field. Next is specifying the incoming field, the field from the primary source table. Click on the down arrow to configure. Select the field src_product_ID. Click Next to configure the target. Click the down arrow next to the connection field to select the target connection. Select the connection C2C_MSSQL_target. Click Select to select the target object. The target table does not exist, so check Create New at runtime. Click on the name field to enter the name product_info. Click OK. The default operation is insert. You can keep that as is. Click on the Truncate Target checkbox to perform a truncate before loading. Click Next to configure the field mapping. The fields are auto-mapped based on their name. You cannot add any transformation, but it is possible to change the field mapping if needed. Click Next to configure the runtime options. You can run the task on a schedule, but you can run it manually for this exercise. Click Save to save the data transfer task. Click Run to run the task. After a little while, you can see the task finished in the My Jobs panel. To validate the results, open the SQL Server client by clicking on its icon in the Windows toolbar. You see the newly created table target.product_info at the bottom of the list of tables. Click it to create a query to view the data. Click Select Top 1000 rows. The data is displayed. When you scroll to the right, you will see the product price data fields. Click Next to exit this exercise and return to the presentation. In this exercise, you will create a synchronization task for the source table CRM_customer_main. The table is open here, and you see in the SQL output that some of the names are in mixed case. In the synchronization task, you will add a transformation to uppercase the name. Click Next to start the lab. You are in the home page of the Data Integration Service. Click New to start creating the synchronization task. On the New Asset panel, highlight the synchronization task. Click Create to start the configuration. Click on the Name field to rename the task. Click on the Task Operation field to see the options. The four options are Insert, Update, Upsert, and Delete. Click Insert to select this option. Click Next to configure the source. To configure the source connection, click on the down arrow next to the connection field. Select the connection C2C_MSSQL_CRM. You can choose between a single source table, multiple tables, or using a saved query. You only use the table CRM_customer_main for this exercise, so the single table option is fine. Click on the down arrow next to the source object field to select the table. Select the table CRM_customer_main. The wizard shows you a data preview of the source. Click Next to configure the target. Click on the down arrow next to the connection field to configure the target connection. Select the connection C2C_MSSQL_target. Click on the target object field to select the target table. Select the table CRM_customer_main. The table must be truncated before loading the data. Click the Truncate Table field to change it from false to true. Click Next to go to the next step of the wizard. In this step, you can configure data filters to select specific data. For this exercise, there is no need to do this. Click Next to go to the field mapping step. In this step, you can add transformations or lookups to the standard, pre-configured field mapping. As mentioned at the start of the exercise, you will need to uppercase the customer name. Click on the small function button next to cust_name to configure. Click on the string functions at the bottom left to expand it. After scrolling down, you see the upper function. Click it to add it to the expression editor. The expression is complete. Click the scroll bar to scroll down to the Validate and OK buttons. The Validate button checks whether the expression is correct. This is especially useful for more complex expressions. Click OK to save the expression. The completed expression appears on the field mapping page. Click Next to continue the wizard. The final step is to add a schedule or configure email or advanced options. For this exercise, there is no need to do this. Click Finish to save the synchronization task. The task is saved successfully. Click Run to execute it. After a little while, you can see the task finished in the My Jobs panel. To validate the results, open the SQL Server client by clicking on its icon in the Windows toolbar. The target table shows at the bottom of the list of tables. Right-click it to create a query to view it. Click the Select Top 1000 Rows option. In the query results, you see the name uppercased, as configured. Click Next to end this exercise and return to the presentation.
Welcome to the Cloud Data Integration. Mass Ingestion Module. Cloud Mass Ingestion is more powerful than the task types covered in the previous chapter, but it also has its limitations. It can ingest data from databases, applications, files, or streaming sources. In this course, we will focus on database ingestions. In the mass ingestion task, you can select one or more objects to ingest. Per object, a subtask is generated, and the tasks run in parallel. Mass ingestion can run on the secure agent, an advanced cluster or serverless environment. It can write to file or database. File types supported are CSV, Avro, and Parquet. Typically, you will schedule mass ingestion jobs to take snapshots or ingest new unchanged records. The schedule interval depends on the requirements for data availability in the target system. A limitation is that there are no transformations possible. A typical scenario for ingestion to a cloud data warehouse would be to ingest the data from the source to a landing area. From there, run standard CDI mappings to transform the required output. Cloud Mass Ingestion supports two ingestion types, initial and incremental. The initial load reads the complete input dataset and transfers everything to the target. When you want to take a snapshot at a point in time, or start a change data capture scenario, the initial load is the recommended process. The incremental load is capturing changes in the source from a certain starting point. Change data capture is reading the database logs to capture any changes in the source data. For this reason, you need to work with the database administrator to enable the database for change data capture by running configuration scripts. These scripts vary per database. Change data capture transfers a smaller data volume than running initial loads, since only changes are processed. This will reduce runtime and resource consumption. The change data capture architecture and processing for cloud mass ingestion is shown in this diagram. On the database server, a database is installed and data is modified. These modifications are logged into the database log files. What type of file this is, depends on the database. The Cloud Secure Agent, which can be installed on the database server or separate, will have the mass ingestion license enabled. When the mass ingestion job starts, a database mass ingestion task will start for each table that needs to be ingested. This task creates two subtasks, a reader and a writer. The reader tasks will access the database logs via the supported method for the database. The relevant data is taken from the log and written to a persistent data store. When data is received in this store, the CDC writer process will take it from there and write to any supported target, usually file storage in the cloud or a database. Now, why this intermediate data store? This is done to separate the reading process from applying the changes to the target. Database log files can fill up very quickly and can be purged very fast. To avoid changes getting lost, the reader writes all relevant records to the intermediate data store, from where the writer will pick them up. Configuring a mass ingestion job consists of 4 steps, all guided by a wizard. Let's look first at configuring a job for the initial load. The first step is the definition of the job. Here you will name the job, specify where it will be stored in the IDMC repository, select the runtime environment, and finally select the load type. In this job, the load type selected is an initial load. The second step in the wizard is selecting the source tables. Select the database connection and schema to ingest from, in this case, the local SQL Server database and the acme_CRM schema. Next is selecting the tables, by using the table selection rules. Here all tables in the schema are selected. You can do a table count or check the tables selected by using the table names option. Each table selected will result in a separate subtask when the job is executed. The third step in the wizard is specifying the target. Select the connection required and then, depending on the connection type, different options will be shown. In this example, we selected an ADLS connection, so we need to specify the file format, whether headers need to be written, and the compression type. The final step is the runtime options page. For initial loads, this just consists of a few options. In the next slides, you will see this page is more important for incremental loads. Now the job specification is ready, and it can be saved. To run it, first, it needs to be deployed using the Deploy button, and then it can be started from the My Jobs page. Configuring an incremental mass ingestion job is slightly different, although the same 4 steps in the wizard are used. The first big difference is on the source page. You can choose to have the CDC scripts for the database generated and executed here, instead of doing it manually. And you have 2 options for using a specific file group and gating rule to configure the change data capture access to the source. The second big difference is in the runtime options. There are 2 sets of options here. The first set is about schema drift on the source, and the action to be taken in the mass ingestion job. Actions are replicate, stop table, and stop job. Replicate will apply the schema changes to the target, while stop table and stop job will halt ingestion for the one table or the whole set of tables respectively. The second set is the advanced set of options, where you specify when changes are applied to the target. There are 3 thresholds for the changes to be applied: a time interval, a fixed time in days, hours, minutes, or seconds, the number of changes processed, low activity flush interval in hours or minutes. The change data is applied to the target when any of these thresholds is reached, and a new apply cycle is started. Note that these options may differ per target type. The ones shown here are for Azure Synapse Analytics. Time for an exercise. In the following lab, you will configure and run a mass ingestion job, reading from SQL Server and writing to Amazon S3. Click on the button to start the exercise. After you have completed the labs, please move forward to the next section.
In this exercise, you will build and run a mass ingestion job to load all data from the CRM system to Amazon S3. This will be a full copy, so you will use an initial load. We start the exercise in the mass ingestion service. Click New to create a new mass ingestion job. Select Database Ingestion Task. The wizard shows its first screen, the definition page. Click on the name field to change the name to me_CRM_to_. This job runs on the local secure agent. Click on the Runtime Environment field to select it. Next is selecting the load type. Click on the field to see the options. Here you see the 3 load types. Some databases, like Oracle and SQL Server, support the initial and incremental load in one mass ingestion process definition, but you may need to create 2 separate processes for others. In this exercise, you will fully refresh the CRM data in the target system, so you will use the initial load option. Click Next to configure the source. The Source tab lets you configure the source in 2 steps. The first is selecting the connection and the schema. Click on the connection field to select the CRM. Select the connection C2C_MSSQL_CRM. The second step of the source selection comes up. You can select all tables in the schema or a subset using the rule-based selection option. Click on Select All to select all tables. The list of selected tables comes up. For each table, the number of columns is listed, and you can view the columns by clicking on the number. Click Next to configure the target. Click on the connection field to select the target connection. Select the connection S3_IPSDE_CSA. This is the Amazon S3 connection, running on the local secure agent. The options for the S3 target appear. You can choose the file format, whether you want to add headers, compression, the data directory, and schema directory for the file metadata. Keep all the settings default and click Next. The final screen of the wizard lets you set a schedule and configure runtime options. You can keep these as is. Click Save to save the job. To run the job, you must first deploy it. Click the Deploy button on the top right-hand side of the screen. The deployed jobs will appear on the My Jobs page, where you can run them. Click on My Jobs to view the deployed jobs. Here you see the deployed jobs. Click on the ellipsis on the right-hand side of the job. Three options appear: redeploy, run, and undeploy. To change a mass ingestion job, you must first undeploy it. After making the change, redeploy the job. Click Run to run the mass ingestion. You see the job status changing to up and running. Click on the job name to view the details. The job details screen appears, where you can see the overall statistics. Click on the Object Detail tab to view the details per source table. The 4 subtasks are all finished, and the statistics are shown. Now, let's check the output. For this, go to the S3 browser, which is already open in the 3rd tab on the top of the screen. Click on the tab to go to S3. Amazon S3 shows 4 folders created in the IPSDE data folder. This was configured in the mass ingestion job. Click on the folder CRM_customer_main to open it. The mass ingestion job created 2 files, one with the data and one schema file containing the column definition. Click on the data file, suffix CSV, to open it. The file opens in Notepad, and you can see the data. This concludes the exercise. Click Next to return to the presentation.
Welcome to the Cloud Data Integration, Predefined Tasks, and Mass Ingestion Summary. In this course, the following topics were covered. The 3 predefined tasks: replication, synchronization, and data transfer. And mass ingestion in initial and incremental mode. Now, it's time for some review questions. Topics covered by the Cloud Data Integration series include concepts and architecture, predefined tasks and mass ingestion, runtime environments, mapping design and development, parameters and dynamic mappings, and hierarchy processing. There will be a comprehensive assessment at the end of the 6 courses. You must score 80% to pass the Cloud Data Integration series. Thank you for completing the Cloud Data Integration, Predefined Tasks and Mass Ingestion course. Please click the Exit button to complete this training.